General Petraeus, Ambassador Flournoy, thank you so much, first of all, for your service. In 2006, I was a civil affairs officer of the United States Marine Corps in the western Euphrates River Valley.
I remember it.
In an area that had a lot of al-Qaeda influence, and it was very difficult to encourage the population to cooperate with us because of fear for what, just the intimidation factor of what al-Qaeda might do to them or would do to them if, in fact, they were caught doing so. Now, in Afghanistan right now, there are media reports that the President's speech at West Point, where he talked about a date for which we would begin the process of drawing down our forces, that has filtered down to the Afghan people and has had an influence whereby they are less cooperative because they see that our presence is limited where the Taliban's is not. I wonder if you can comment on that. General Petraeus.
There may well be a case where that is the situation, but I don't think it's throughout the country. I mean, what they are seeing right now is an enormous increase in our forces. Remember, when President Obama took office in January 2009, this was an under-resourced effort at the end of the day. I mean, what I've explained is what we've done over the last 18 months to try to resource it properly and to get the inputs right. And what they're seeing is a more than threefold increase from 31,000 to 98,000, just U.S. forces. I think 8 or 9 additional thousand NATO forces, and now in the process of growing another 100,000 Afghan national security forces. So again, there's an enormous additional commitment. A president who has labeled this a vital national security interest, indeed has used a date to convey a message of urgency, as I've explained. And if you weren't here earlier, I'll give you my statement because I felt it important enough to put that on the record with the Senate Armed Services Committee, and then did the same thing here today. And I think that's what is hugely important. This is not a date when the United States races for the exits and turns off the light switch. It is a date at which a process begins that is based on conditions that govern a pace of transitioning of tasks to Afghan forces and officials, and governs the beginning of a responsible drawdown of our surge forces.
Thank you, General Petraeus. I hope that the Afghan people realize that. We certainly do. To both of you, I'm very concerned about the governance piece, that there are certainly reports in Marja that the kinetic operations went well, certainly by our forces and Afghan forces, but there wasn't the governance piece as a follow-on by the Afghans to, in fact, do that piece. And without a reliable partner, it doesn't matter at the end of the day how successful we are in terms of tactical operations. We're not going to go anywhere unless they can fill that void after we provide security.
Well, there is no question that is the long pole in the tent in any counterinsurgency effort, as you experienced again also in the Euphrates River Valley, where it was very difficult. We could clear a town and there was nobody to take it over from us. There was no transition, and there was certainly not a sheikh willing to stand up and be part of the new Iraq government at that time, because the ones who did out in western Anbar, as you'll recall, got their heads chopped off until we really got the sustained Anbar awakening to take root. But we had to protect them. That was the key. With respect to Marja, indeed, the clearance operation really was quite commendable, I think. The Marines that were engaged in that did very impressive work. UK up to the north of it, in other areas of Nadi Ali as well, did not destroy the place to save it. They cleared it. They went over a lot of it, as you'll recall, and then came back and took the enemy from behind and so forth. And the governance piece, as always in these efforts, is difficult, especially in Afghanistan, where human capital does not lie around in abundance after 30 years of war, and where contractors pay more than the government does. There is, however, a district governor there. For what it's worth, I walked through the market of Marja with him. We went and bought bread from the local bread vendor. Yes, we had security around us. I didn't have body armor or Kevlar on in this case, but also had dozens, if not hundreds, of Afghans all around us as well and wanting to chatter with us and everything else. We also visited a school that had reopened. Again, I think there's 80 teachers in the Marja area alone that have come back. The Taliban didn't permit that. There's reconstruction of a variety of other basic services and so forth. None of this easy, but it is taking place. Michelle.
I could just,
Please.
a very brief, on your very important point about communicating to the Afghan people our enduring commitment. When President Karzai and 14 members of his cabinet came in May for our strategic dialogue, we spent a lot of our time not only talking about where we are today in the campaign, but also the longer-term relationship, 5 years, 10 years, and beyond, and what kind of work we want to do with Afghanistan on security assistance, in education, in economic development, and so forth. And we are actually beginning to work on a strategic framework for the long-term relationship that we will be coming and talking to you more about as that develops as well. But I think as that becomes more public, it frames, it communicates, I think, that you know, there may be contours in the nature of our involvement there, but this is an enduring commitment. This is an area of vital interest, and we will stay committed to the people of Afghanistan and to their assistance.